It's Solid Gold, starring Marilyn McCoo, with Solid Gold recording stars Kim Carnes, the Oak Ridge Boys, Waylon Flowers and Madam, the Solid Gold Dancers, and very special guest, Soldier Boy.
Fab Five Freddy told me everybody's fly. DJ spinning, I said my. Flash is fast, Flash is cool.
Friends fast apart, Flash ain't no dude, and you don't stop. Sure shot, go out to the parking lot, and you get in your car and you drive real far.
There I was, killing them softly with my song, or rather being killed, and not that softly either. I was singing with my eyes closed.
I fought for this country.
What did I get for it? Forgotten.
It is a very hot day in the UK today, so I'm hoping I don't melt before finishing recording this video. I've turned the fan off and it has just made this room like a sauna. I'm probably going to sweat on camera. It's not going to be funky. It's not going to be very groovy. Not going to be very groovy at all. Whew. Oh my god. Whew. Whew. I'm sweating more than a Vault employee asked to give over some documents. So we've come to another boys finale, and I'm sad because it's been such a great run of episodes and I could do with several more, but alas, here we are. We're going to have to wait another little while for some more episodes, but that's okay because I feel like this finale really delivered some awesome moments and some really great character beats, and it went off in some unexpected directions and I really enjoyed it. Thank God for the boys amongst all of the other crappy superhero material like Thor, unfortunately.
Are you thinking what I think you're thinking?
I'm thinking it.
This episode saw Billy Butcher, Queen Maeve and Soldier Boy team up to take on Homelander.
Just want to talk.
But things did obviously not go to plan, and we ended up with kind of like 4 or 5 different team-ups all going on in that fight at once. But I thought it was really epic, it was really fun to watch, and we got some immense character payoffs, particularly with people like Queen Maeve, A-Train, and unfortunately Black Noir.
Don't worry, Irving. We are so proud of you.
I think we should probably start off with Black Noir because it's probably the saddest thing in the whole episode. I thought it was awesome, and so the boys, to set up this incredible revenge arc for the finale in the penultimate episode, only to scratch all that and have Homelander eviscerate Black Noir. He never gets his revenge, he never gets to come face to face with Soldier Boy, and he instead pays the price for keeping a secret from the mighty Homelander.
You should have told me.
Obviously, of course, you know, he is a soup. Maybe he's not quite dead, but I feel like this was the time for him to face Soldier Boy, and they really committed to him dying. He had all his animated friends sort of wishing him well as he was fading out, and it felt like there was the appropriate weight to a death. You know, a lot of people said that they thought A-Train died in Herogasm, and I really was not convinced because it was so unceremonious, whereas this death, there was a lot of ceremony to it. It felt like it was a big moment for the show. So yeah, seems like maybe Black Noir really is dead. Of course, maybe he'll make a surprise appearance, maybe he'll do a Game of Thrones hound and come back out of nowhere 2 seasons later. We can only hope, but for now, it seems like the payback soup will never get his revenge, and that is incredibly sad. I also loved the dynamic between him and Homelander across the entire show. It's so interesting when you see Homelander treat people with respect, because there's just a handful of people that he does, and you know, it's interesting that, like, because Black Noir can't speak and therefore can't challenge him and has been there with him for a lot longer than the other members of the Seven, He sees him as kind of like a genuine friend who he trusts. It's always nice to see Homelander get served and get shown that he really is truly alone. A lot of people quite rightfully pointed out that if Soldier Boy truly is Homelander's dad, that means that Ryan Butcher has a newly discovered granddad, and that came into play in a really interesting way in this episode. We got Homelander reuniting with Ryan Butcher, and Mallory now knows that Congresswoman Newman is not to be trusted because she gave up Ryan's location. And I thought it was such a nice payoff to something that happened way earlier in this season when Ryan was looking for solace in Billy, only for him to say that it was his fault that Becca died, which wasn't what he needed at the time, and certainly wasn't what he needed for them to build trust in their relationship. And of course, Homelander comes in and tells Ryan exactly what he wants and needs to hear. He tells him that it was an accident and that he's never gonna blame him for that, and that, you know, these things happen because of the nature of who they are.
Nobody. That's why I'm always gonna love you.
And of course, I thought that was such a neat payoff, because when Butcher and Ryan have that altercation earlier in the season, you don't expect Homelander to come back in between them and steal Ryan away and earn Ryan's trust and love. So that's going to make him even more dangerous in the next season. The Boys is such a great show because it constantly chucks at you the most heinous characters and then gives you a reason to feel like sympathy for them, even if you don't want to, or like to see something in them that you're like, oh, like, you know, with Homelander, you know, particularly as a guy that grew up with no dad, it always gets me when he really tries with Ryan and he comes to him and he says like, oh, you know, I do really love you. And you can tell from his own twisted, sick version of what love is that he really means it and he really wants to spend time with him. And, you know, I'm almost, you know, against my own better judgment, sat there watching the screen like, oh, yeah, oh, this is really sweet, yeah. There you go, Ryan. Finally, you know, a dad who loves you. You go off with Homelander. Oh, so sweet, so sweet. And then I'm reminded. There's so many layers to that character. I just think he's such a joy to watch. I can never get bored of watching Homelander. I could watch Homelander take a shit, and it will probably be the most exciting thing since Phase 3 of the MCU. He's utterly evil and so powerful and all-consuming, but also so miserable and so broken and ultimately very vulnerable. This is one of the most haunting and three-dimensional superhero villains we've gotten, well, ever. And it was great to see how Ryan played into the fight at the end, because Soldier Boy had no love and affection for either Homelander or his grandson.
He said it was a disappointment.
And when Ryan attacked Soldier Boy, he had no problem smacking the kid, and that of course enraged not only Homelander but Billy as well. And it was so unexpected to see them both briefly team up to laser the fuck out of Soldier Boy. And I loved like the sort of look they gave each other of like, oh god, we're kind of teaming up here. Oh, this is horrible. Let's forget this ever happened. Big episode for Queen Maeve. We finally got to see her stand up to Homelander and take him on in a fist fight. And like, whilst I don't think this fight was as good and as well choreographed with as much finesse as the Herogasm fight between Butcher and Soldier Boy and Homelander, I think we still got some cool moments. There was some good licks. The whole fight is building on 3 seasons of build-up between Maeve and Homelander, and watching her finally stand up to him was a big deal. And it got gory. It was cool to see her like lose an eye, and they did the fake out of her death, I thought, perfectly, because it would have felt a bit unearned, I think, for her to die and sacrifice herself just to stop Soldier Boy. But I think she actually got a perfect ending in the sense that now she doesn't have her powers. She's kind of got that Cap ending in Endgame where it's like, yeah, maybe she could stick around and do a bit more, and she probably could be useful in the ongoing fight, but at the same time, she's suffered enough. I think she deserves to go off with her girlfriend and start up a farm and live happily ever after. So I thought that was a perfect way to handle it. And now that she's not got her powers, she's kind of taken off the board in that sense. So yeah, I wonder if we'll see her again. I'd be perfectly happy with us never seeing Maeve again, or maybe, you know, when Homelander is finally killed off at the very, very end of the show, maybe we just see her like watching it on the TV or hearing it on the news and finally getting that payoff. But otherwise, I think that was the perfect way to tie off that character, and also like a perfect contrast to what happened with Black Noir. You know, not everyone's going to get their happy endings, but as long as some of them can, then maybe that's enough. And it perfectly suits the kind of twisted, corrupt world of the boys. Last week we were left with the idea that Butcher was going to send Huey to his death by taking more temporary V, whereas instead this week we not only got to see Billy decide not to let that happen and in his own horrible, demented, abusive way save Huey from certain doom, we also got to see Huey finally kind of redeem himself from what he's done across this season, and reject the Temp V and reject all that kind of like faux masculinity and need to protect Starlight, and instead he literally lifts her up by increasing the power of the lights in the room where they're fighting. And finally, something from the comics, we get to see Starlight fly, or hover at least here. She's one of the most powerful supes in the show. They make a really big deal out of that in the first season. Powers are no joke, and she does things like she takes like an armor-piercing sniper bullet to the chest and she walks it off. And I feel like ever since season 1, since we've been introducing more and more supes, they kind of downplayed her abilities and her strengths. So it'd be nice now that she's joining the boys officially. It was cool to see her like absorb all the light and send a blast at Soldier Boy using her full capabilities. But it didn't really amount to too much. I think she kind of wobbled Soldier Boy, but if everyone else hadn't been there to stop him, I don't know what would have really gone down. It's great to see Kamiko embrace her powers again and listen to Maniac on the floor while she's slaughtering a bunch of dudes. And it was also, I thought, really, really touching to see Frenchie talk to Mother's Milk and console him about what he's shown his daughter, because obviously he punches Todd in the last episode. And I thought it was just really sweet for Frenchie to say that, you know, like, let your daughter see the worst side of you because you can't hide it, but also know that she's going to see the best side of you and that I think you're one of the best men I've ever known. I thought that was delivered so beautifully by Toma Capone, and yeah, like, it just sort of reinforces what a tight-knit group the boys are. And even though, like, you know, particularly those two characters have come to blows several times, they really are kind of like a found family.
But you are also perhaps the best man I ever known.
I understand some people were disappointed, maybe it didn't quite go the way you were expecting it to go, but I don't think they could have possibly wrapped up all the threads in this season finale, and there's still so much more to come. But much like season 2, I think it kind of capped off the most prescient threads with like the new big bad soup this season, of course being Soldier Boy, last season being Stormfront, while still leaving enough questions open and enough tantalising teases for where it's going to go next year. Congresswoman Newman is now going to be the running mate with Robert Singer, and potentially might even become president. Maybe she's got some plans to bump him off, but either way, you know, she's going to be getting a massive jump in political power and influence, and that's going to be interesting. I was surprised we didn't see any more of Stan Edgar, but obviously he's going to be waiting in the wings, he's going to be around the corner, and I'll be interested to see where the Deep goes next season, because he's kind of once again been crushed under the public eye. His ex-wife is now telling all, so it'll be interesting to see him go from, you know, sort of disgraced to back in the public eye in a positive way to disgraced even further. I'm sure all the stuff about him fucking the octopuses is going to come out, and he's probably going to get massively ridiculed next season, which is only going to make him even more dangerous. I think people like to think he's kind of like the buffoon, the comedy character, but his willingness to obey Homelander and do whatever is necessary to keep sweet with him will no doubt lead to a lot of people getting hurt, and probably in some really catastrophic ways. We didn't get a lot of A-Train this season, but I think it arguably was his most important stint on the show, and it was really interesting to see him go to his brother and kind of get like a further taste of how hard it's going to be for him to truly be redeemed. Saying sorry to Huey wasn't enough, and saying sorry to his brother clearly isn't enough now. I thought it was really interesting to see his brother admit, you know, like, you always just fight for yourself, you're completely selfish, and, you know, this isn't about me, this is about helping you. And I think, like, they've reached a real point of no return now that he's paralysed. Like, A-Train's actions have directly affected his home life, and he's just not gonna take it anymore. And also, like, I thought it was really interesting to see, you know, like, it was kind of a triumphant moment for him to kill Blue Hawk and avenge what happened to his brother and what happened to the black community that Blue Hawk had been affecting. But at the same time, I thought it was great to hear his brother say, you know, like, it would have been better for my kids to see him in cuffs and to have seen it go down in a way that wouldn't see him kind of like hero worshipped in the future. Like, instead, now Blue Hawk canonically died by Soulja Boy's hand and was a hero to many, and that's just the completely the wrong message that A-Train's brother wanted to send out. What's interesting about A-Train is I think he does have a shot at being a better person, but he's discovering in the hardest way possible that you can't just say you've changed. You've got to kind of show it, and you've got to kind of like over a long period of time prove that with your actions and by helping others and by putting others first. So I think he's got a long way to go, and at the same time he's still completely under the thumb of Homelander, as we see in that incredible scene where Homelander sits down Ashley and A-Train in the deep and kind of, you know, once again lays down the law and says that, you know, you're not my family, and essentially tells them that he's using them at every turn and there is nothing they can do about it. It was also horrific for him to make Ashley take off her wig and show everyone that she's been tearing her hair out continuously across the season, and also a great window into showing just how stressed and how beaten and abused she is under working for Homelander. But yeah, I thought it was a really exciting episode. I thought there was some really heartbreaking character beats. I'm still sad about what happened to Black Noir, but I am infinitely happy about what happened to Queen Maeve. And I just can't wait to see what's going to happen with Ryan and Homelander's relationship going forward next season. We've definitely, again, reached a point of no return with Homelander, where he went from fantasizing about killing protesters in season 2, but never crossing the line because of what it might look like to the public and the scrutiny that would come with it, to now having enough of a galvanized fan base that, you know, that he has managed to weaponize their anger so fervently that he can laser a guy's head off in front of them and they will all just cheer and scream. Yeah! Yeah! That further step to his influence will only make him even more dangerous, because now he can do things out in the open. As we've been seeing across this season, he's starting to get fed up with the TV interviews, with the wishy-washy chats. He's just going to start telling it like it is, and if anyone gets in his way, he's more than equipped to murder them on sight in full view of the public. So I can't wait to see A, what he's going to do with that newfound power, and B, how the boys and Butcher are going to contend with that. And obviously, you know, Butcher's been left in a really interesting place because he's now got roughly 18 months to live, which means I imagine the next season will take place after not too long a time jump, and that will probably be like the most important ticking clock of the season. Will be Butcher going towards his death, and I guess, like, you know, he's going to get more dangerous as well because he knows he's on borrowed time. Maybe he'll start using Temp V even more willy-nilly because, you know, there's nothing to stop him now. It's not like he's going to die from it. He's already dying. And obviously, I guess he's going to be desperate to get Ryan back away out of Homelander's clutches. A big thank you to my full fat tier patron, Dr. Chike. If you'd like to donate money to my Patreon, you can find me at patreon.com/fullfatvideos.